Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. This season is the last quarter challenge. Every single week, we introduce a micro moment, something that will ladder up your confidence week to week so that you start 2026 in the strongest way possible. And on Fridays, we have a guest come on to talk about that challenge. This is our last episode. This is micro moment number 10. And it is the one that requires all the previous micro moments to get to this place. And this micro moment is rewiring a fail. And the reason why I think we've made this the last one is because all the ways in which you've gotten stronger set you up for setback. Because setbacks are inevitable. What determines your confidence isn't about whether or not you fail. It's about how your brain processes the failure afterward. Because rewiring your story and your brain after a fail, we have to replace shame and rumination with learning, compassion, and forward motion. And you can only do that when you are the strongest version of yourself. When you're doing anything brave, especially one that has risk or anything that really matters to you, you're going to miss a shot. And confidence isn't built by pretending that something doesn't hurt or didn't affect you. It's built by how you rewind the tape afterwards. So setbacks can be constraining or they can be empowering, and it's all about how you look at them. Today, I'm going to talk about the science of failure, the science of rewiring how your brain processes failure. And then I'm going to give you a challenge that you can take on to rewire any setback that you've experienced. So let's start with the science. When you experience setback or disappointment, the brain sees that as a threat. And we've talked a lot about your fear center, your amygdala, the part of your brain that controls flight, fight, or freeze. It's a very primitive part of your brain. And what studies have shown is that social rejection, failure, it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. I think our friend Jane Park, who came on to talk about chasing failure, is the path to success. She says it actually feels like you're being physically stabbed when you experience failure. And this is why mistakes can feel outsized. They can, make your brain feel like your safety is being threatened. On top of that, after you have experienced a setback, your brain starts to ruminate. And there are all these studies about rumination. After a failure, your default mode network, the DMN, it activates. And this network is responsible for self-referential thinking and replay loops. So it actually says, hey, what does this say about me? Why did I do that? What will other people think? And when it's unchecked, this kind of rumination creates shame and reinforces it, strengthens those fear-based neural pathways, and reduces your learning. And so when you experience setback, it activates your fear center, your protective mechanisms. You feel almost like you've been physically hurt. And then when you ruminate on it, you start to experience shame and you start to get even more disappointed with yourself. This shame, studies have shown shame shuts down learning. And because shame is identity-based, it means that you start to feel like, hey, something's wrong with me. And it's not behavior-based. It's like, versus something went wrong, you start to ask the question, oh, something is wrong with me. And when that happens, shame suppresses the activity in the good part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the PFC. And the prefrontal cortex, we've talked about a lot, it's where your brain learns, decides, problem solves. It's actually the good part of your brain. And when it goes offline, your growth stops. So think about you experience a disappointment, your fear-based center, your amygdala activates, you start to ruminate on it, and all of a sudden you experience shame. And then that shame balloons into thinking there's something wrong with you, that it becomes an identity thing versus, hey, something happened. And that means you have to rewire this part of your brain. You have to activate your prefrontal cortex. And the way you do that is first you name what happened and you just state the facts. You just say, this happened, this disappointment happened. You have to separate your identity, who you see yourself as, from the outcome. And that's actually why we spent the last 9 weeks strengthening our identity, because we have to see ourselves as strong, capable, see our own power, see what we bring to the table every day. If you don't have that as a basis, you naturally default to bad things being a criticism or an indictment of your own identity. And then you have to extract learning. When you activate the prefrontal cortex, you actually start to regulate your emotions, you quiet your amygdala, your fear center, and you integrate experience into your memory differently. So this is what scientists call cognitive reappraisal. It's one of the strongest predictors of resilience. Can you reappraise setback in a way that helps you get stronger and learn? Life doesn't get easier, we get stronger. And so failures on their own, they don't wire confidence or insecurity. It's actually the way your brain interprets it. That's what you can actually control the interpretation of failure as something that can be confidence boosting or something that makes you even more insecure and create shame in your life. So I use the analogy of the NCAA March Madness tournament. Now, you don't have to be a sports fan, but if you go on YouTube and you Google One Shining Moment is a 2-minute and 20-second song that plays at the end of the basketball tournament. So all of these teams enter March Madness and only one team wins at the end of it. And at the end, they always play a 2-minute and 20-second March Madness reel, which is called One Shining Moment. I think Luther Vandross, he sang it in the 80s and they keep using it. I cry every time I see it. And what you realize is less than 20 seconds of this video is about the winner. 2 minutes is about everyone who lost in the tournament. And you'll see amazing, incredible buzzer beater shots, but you'll also see missed shots. And when a player misses a shot and misses that buzzer beater moment, his entire team comes over and hugs him, and you see him cry and break down. You see exhaustion, you see tears, you see good moments, bad moments, because it's not about the teams that objectively they failed, right? If you think about it, they didn't win. It's about their effort, their heart, and their courage. And I love that the video at the end celebrates not just the winner, but all the teams that lost and what they got out of it. If you're more of a Broadway fan, I love the Hamilton line, "I'm not throwing away my shot," because I think that's actually the way to think about it. And it's the Wayne Gretzky, you miss, all the shots you don't take. So what we're really saying is confidence isn't about never missing. It's about honoring the attempt and learning from it. So how do we rewire a fail? This is what we're going to do. It's a really quick 3-minute practice that you can use anytime something doesn't go as planned. And my friend, Dr. Wendy Balabi, she says it's about turning win-loss into win-learn. So the first step is when you experience a failure, I want you to rewind the tape without judgment. Just describe what happened using only the facts, no adjectives, no blame. Just say it out loud or write it down or share it with someone. Share it with your shame buddy. And it could be things like, I froze during that meeting, or the launch didn't plan as expected. Or it could be this thing I was really hoping for didn't happen. And I want you to reduce the emotional charge by activating your language center or writing it down. I think that's really important. Just say it without judgment. The second is look for the teachable lessons. So you could ask yourself, are there any lessons here? What information did this give to me? In fact, our guest came on and talked about scientists. Our guest Kelly Cervantes said, when you rewire fail, it's really about being a scientist. And she's going to talk about that, which is about experimenting, and actually failure gives you information to learn from. If an experiment goes exactly as planned, you don't learn as much because you don't know why. And this converts the threat into feedback, and feedback is always a gift. The third, I want you to identify the strengths that showed up. So even if it disappointed you, what did you do? Was there courage? Was there effort? Was there growth? Was there a superpower that you brought to bear, even if it didn't go your way? And your confidence language gives you an inventory, so use it. So if you've taken our quiz at myconfidencelanguage.com, use your superpowers to say, even if it didn't go my way, here are the superpowers that I activated in doing this. And the last step, measure your growth, because maybe you've gotten stronger or you've got new information about who you are. And this final question is what completes the rewire. I always use an example. We have fashion collections all the time, and there was one in particular that completely failed. It was our Year of the Tiger collection. and it did not pay back financially on its results. And what I really thought about is, what did we learn? Well, it gave us something to do during the pandemic that wasn't about making face masks or hospital gowns. So on its own, it created motivation on our team. It taught us a whole new set of resources, a ton of artisans, people that we didn't know existed in the garment district that we could activate in the future. And we learned a lot about what our customers wanted and didn't want from us. And we took that into the next collection that we built that was financially successful. So we rewire fails all the time in business, and I want you to do that across your life. Why it's helpful, and this is really important. Rewiring a fail as a practice, it shrinks shame before it calcifies it into self-doubt. It builds recovery speed. I love that one of our guests talked about the comeback rate, Hannah Pryor. She said, you'll never stop being awkward. It's all about how you come back, what your comeback rate looks like. And that's a marker of confidence. I think people who come back are the ones that really are truly confident. They're not afraid of failure. It keeps you in motion instead of being paralyzed or avoiding something or stuck in a comfort zone. And it strengthens your own version of self-trust. You can handle this. I can handle this. And I think it's not about, again, identity. It's about things happen. And how do we reframe them in a way that continues to move us forward? The most confident people aren't necessarily fearless. They just recover faster. So as we close out this season, here's what I want you to remember. There's a negative version of events, and there's a constructive way to rewind the tape every single time. When you review your setbacks with compassion, discernment, learning, you're not lowering your standards. In fact, you're raising your capacity to do more. Confidence isn't about never missing a shot. It's about knowing how to respond when you do. I hope you've loved this episode of In Confidence. I love that this is our last micro moment of the last quarter season challenge. And I hope you get to go on my LinkedIn and comment on how you rewired a fail this week. It's just been such an incredible journey to be on with all of you. And my guest, Kelly Cervantes, later this week is going to talk about this particular challenge. I hope you loved this whole season and are growing stronger because of it. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. Please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it today. And until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.